Hey guys, this is Marc Brunet with CubeRush.com, and in this chapter we're going to be adding the main character. So, no, this little guy is not the main character. It was just there so to help me measure the scale and the size of things, make sure the perspective is decent. This one here is going to be the main character. So, while I was working on the background, I was sort of running ideas in my head on what the main character could be and what the rest of the scene could look like. And it really came down to a big surprise. I want to make another mech. So I want to make a big robot that was kind of going towards the scene. And I know he's not going to be the only one. So I know I want a robot in there, but it's probably going to look a little bit too empty. So I want to add something else. I'm still not sure. So I'm still thinking about that at this point in the painting. But for now, yeah, I wanted to bring back sort of the focal point a little bit closer to the camera. So imagine that the viewer is a camera looking through a window, and that's what we see. I wanted the areas of interest to be a little bit closer. So right now, if it was only the background, the main area of interest would be that big pillar in the far back of the painting, all the way in the background. And I'm not too comfortable doing that. It's not like my areas of expertise. I'm not an environment artist by any means. So most of my environments are always to support the main character, the main focal point, which is in this case, this big robot. So I'm going to be spending a little bit more time on him and making him the focal point instead, and the big pillar in the back the secondary focal point. So both, obviously will need a certain amount of details because there's still, the two of them are still focal points, still important elements in the scene. But yeah, he's going to be the main sort of the main star of this painting, basically. So I knew that I was going to make a robot, but I still had no idea what the robot was going to look like. So if it was going to be like creature looking, maybe a biped, or like 4 legs, or like a tank, or maybe something that's flying. I wasn't too sure. So again, I'm just throwing shapes in there, and as you can see, I'm sort of sculpting the main silhouette. I'm not committing too much to any of the details so far because the silhouette could change, and it could change everything. So when I work on a character like this, when I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be working on, I always try to approach it that way. So work on a silhouette first, something that looks cool as a silhouette, and then chances are it's going to look cool also, when you add the details and work the different volumes within that silhouette. In this case, I am already starting to figure out sort of the lighting. It's fairly simple in this case since it's an outside scene. All the lighting is going to come from the top of the character, and that makes it fairly simple. So it's going to be a big ambient light coming from the top, bluish light. So I don't need to I don't need to think too much in this case. It's not going to be like any crazy lighting situation. Fairly straightforward, and that happens to fall right into my comfort zone. So it's perfect for a speed paint. The challenge with a character that's not facing the camera is to make it as interesting as if he was facing the camera, as you can imagine. So, looking at the back of a character is never that interesting. So, I really was trying to find some interesting shapes, something that could almost look like it could be the front, but it's not. So, like maybe some cool thrusters, or like some like jet engine or something like that. Because obviously, a character looking at a character from the front is always a little bit more interesting to look at. So that was the challenge that was definitely like on my mind when I started to do this. Having a character walk like away from the camera in the scene, always a little bit challenging. Sometimes if it's a human, for example, you might want to have the character look back, or have his head twisted and maybe look at something that's towards the camera, or so that you can see the face, you can see the character a little bit more. When it's a robot, most robots don't tend to have emotions really show through their faces, so in this case, that's why I didn't have his head like turned around or anything like that, because it wouldn't really add anything to the character itself. If it was if it was a human, I probably would have had the character turn back and maybe like wave at at the camera, or maybe call somebody that is behind the camera or something like that. But yeah, for robots, not so needed. If uh if you're working on a scene like this, where sort of perspectives are required, always a good idea to have some guides in there. So you could pop a new layer and have a little bit of like perspective lines in there. Since my 3-point perspective is going to be super super flat, so as if you were looking at it from really really far, I probably won't need any. It's not going to be as accurate as it could be, but it's going to be like accurate enough that nobody's really going to notice that if it's off a little bit. So yeah, perspective's always important, because it can ruin your painting really really quickly. So if you're not super comfortable with perspective, then don't do a speed paint that requires heavy perspective, because then you're probably going to waste a lot of time making that perspective work, and your speed paint's not going to be as effective. But yeah, in my case, it was a fairly safe perspective to work with, so I went with it. As you can see now, I'm just adding a little bit of like volume information, so that I know what my volumes in 3D space is going to look like, so that when comes the time to sort of light it up properly, I don't have to think too much. So just doing some of the groundwork already. But yeah, I'm just gonna add some shoulder pads to this guy, and then after that, I'm gonna be done with this first phase of the painting. So as you can see now, I have pretty much all the elements, where I'll be in a good spot to move on to the details, and then that means that now is the time to create some new brushes. So I have a good idea of what I'll be needing. So I need like some mechanical parts and whatever. Like I need a bunch of stuff that I might not have in my brush set. So the idea is that you have a basic brush set initially, and you work on your painting a little bit more, and then you start to have some needs. So needs to to improve your maybe your time, or to save some time on certain bits that maybe you'll be able to reuse for other paintings in the future. So that's a good time generally to be to take a few minutes off and work on a couple custom brushes. So that's what we're going to be doing in the next chapter.